Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. First and foremost, folks, we got to bring you the latest details in the hearing of Pedro Guyton. This is the gentleman who walked into that top supermarket in Buffalo, New York, and killed 10 people. He was sentenced today. We'll talk about the latest from that situation. Also, folks, let's talk about the Department of Justice is spending over $200 million to establish red flag laws to stop guns from getting into the hands of potentially violent offenders. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, let's talk about the trials of a Black actor. We shared with you how Idris Elba said that he is no longer referred to himself as a Black actor, but then there are also comments coming from other Black actors such as Nia Long, who talked about the issue a couple of months ago and how this is creating somewhat of a revolution for Black actors in Hollywood. We'll have that, and we're going to talk to the guys of Cottonmouth. So stay with us. We got a lot to cover on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Folks, we got a lot to talk about, so certainly let's jump right in. First and foremost, we got to talk about the latest coming out of New York, Buffalo, New York, as the shooter in that top supermarket killing, that massacre, the Buffalo mass shooter, was sentenced today, folks. And Peyton Gendron, the 19-year-old white male who went into the supermarket and opened fire on a number of Black patrons. He was sentenced earlier today, and his sentence shows that there is no tolerance for this level of racism. First and foremost, he was given a life sentence without no possibility of parole. And he even made a statement while in court. Take a look at this, folks. Here's the statement from him, expressing some level of grief. Yeah. He said, quote, "I'm very sorry for all the pain I forced the victims and their families to suffer through. I'm very sorry for stealing the lives of your loved ones. I cannot express how much I regret all the decisions I made leading up to my actions on May the 14th. I did a terrible thing that day. I shot and killed people because they were Black. Looking back now, I can't believe I actually did it. I believe what I read online and acted out of hate. I know I can't take it back, but I wish I could. And I don't want anyone to be inspired by me and what I did." That's interesting. I want to bring in my sister's culture crew member. She's a TV personality and host, and she's also an attorney out of the state of Florida to give us her latest insights about this case. My sister, Suzette, speaks. Suzette, good afternoon. How you feeling?
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Hello, Culture Crew. Glad to be here, Farajii. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Suzette, what did you make of this? This sentencing came down earlier this afternoon, and at a certain point, he was sentenced to life in prison without no parole, and he made that statement. And Lisa, if you can pull up the picture of Peyton Gendron while he was in court, folks, he was actually crying. He was actually crying in court. Suzette?
Yeah, everybody, after the sentences get handed down and you get to realize what a horrific and terrible and heinous act you've committed, of course, I can take him at his word, but I also know when it's your life that's really on the line, you are going to cry and plead and do everything that you need to do to try to preserve your life. This was a hatred and racial motivated crime, and he admitted as much. He said he targeted these people shopping on their regular, supermarket day because they were Black. and
Right.
he's 19 years old. I can understand him being young and
He was
kind
18
of
at the time.
18 at the time, 19
Yep.
now. But part of me, when it comes to the death penalty, I always try to think about the people who are serving time who did not do the crime. But when I look at this young man, sometimes you wonder if his race or his background has anything to do with him getting, life instead of the death penalty. Is not for me to judge. But I think there are eyebrows that will be raised at this sentencing, and kind of wonder, is that a reason why his life has been spared, as opposed to so many within the criminal justice system who do not get afforded life instead of the death penalty.
So should we even, like you say, you take him at his word? I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't. I have no crocodile tears for this guy at all. He did it out of pure racism, out of pure rage, pure hatred. You get what you deserve. I mean, you crying about your one life when you took over 9 lives, predominantly seniors, right?
Black innocence.
Black
Yeah.
seniors who were simply going to the supermarket. And to take it up a step further, if y'all remember, he had posted this manifesto online on some social media platform, and he actually recorded some of this act.
Yeah.
So to me, Suzette, it doesn't sound like a situation of a crime of passion. It doesn't sound like it was a spontaneous event. It was more of a very premeditated, meticulously planned out killing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. First degree murder, if there was such a clean and clear example with the addition of the hate crime penalty. This young man, like I said, and if we kind of remember, and I think sometimes with all the gun violence and all the heinous acts, and we'll be talking about senseless shootings throughout the show today as a theme, we tend to get desensitized, but we have to just remember how horrific this was back in when this was committed in Buffalo, and how you could just imagine yourself or your family member just kind of doing their everyday activities, and then having someone, because they've been radicalized by what they are viewing online, turn a deadly weapon on you and take innocence and take lives. So as much as I think maybe he does have some degree of regret now, like you said, the pattern and practice and the facts that were laid out in the case that show his mindset at the time of committing the act, there are many that will argue that he probably should have gotten the death penalty.
Yeah.
Again, necessarily my opinion. But everyone gets to sound remorseful after the fact and say how sorry they are and can't take it back. But we need to hold people accountable and be strong, just as if this defendant happened to be of a different race, a different background, etc. So there may be some who argue that there is a bit of privilege in operation here, but he still does get life without the possibility of parole.
You know what? And I understand those who feel that way. I definitely understand it. In this case, I had to ask myself this morning before we even started the show, Suzette, what would be just? What would be just for him to be able to live and to have that on his mind every single day for the rest of his life?
Yeah.
He can't get a wink of sleep. He can't think. He can't eat nothing. He can't drink nothing without it being a reminder to him to how evil he is. So sometimes I feel like the death penalty just lets a person off, but knowing that you are going to be burned.
Yeah, he's 19. He has a very long time.
Hey, so be it. So be it. It's hard. It's when you see that level of callousness, it's very, very hard to be like, oh, well, I mean, he might have mental health issues. I mean, he could be going through a lot of stuff. I don't care. Yeah. How many of us go through things and we don't resort to that level of violence?
Absolutely.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Like this is modern day America. You go get help. You know what I mean?
And or those around him.
Or those around you.
Intervening,
you know
yes.
Here's the fundamental thing, right? That we all have to contend with as adults, as young people. We all know when the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
That's innately in us, right? Like my daughter at 3 years old knows when she does something right and when she does something wrong. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So you mean to tell me at 18 years old, that capacity, unless you are a psychopath of some sort, right? Like, with just not. But I mean, innately, we know there's a difference between right and wrong. All right, McCole, let me check in with the crew because they're talking. McCole, good to hear from you and kicking us off this afternoon. You said the Buffalo shooters should have gotten the death penalty. He didn't think about it when he was gunning down African-American shoppers at the supermarket that day. Absolutely. I mean, I see the point, but like I said, I want him to feel the fire of the remembrance of what he did.
It's a very long time. He has a long time to live.
He got a long time. He got a long time. And you know, in some cases, and I'm sure you've come across these cases, Suzette, as an attorney, that you heard that after a minute, like some of these individuals who do these heinous crimes, they really can't take that. They can't take it. And they wind up committing suicide or doing some harm to themselves in some other way, shape, or form, because their minds won't let them get a wink of sleep. And you know what?
Listen, it's a part of the punishment. I mean, he's going to be around grown men, you know, within the penal system. So he's going to also have to contend with that environment. And that's not an easy place to be for people that I know who have served time in state penitentiaries and federal penitentiaries and things like this. Like he has a very rough road ahead of him again, but he's still alive to be able to live it. So there are people that will dispute whether he deserves that or not. But again, the judge's discretion is given, and this is the rendering of the outcome. So that's what we'll have to live with as a community and a society.
Absolutely. And just to let you folks know, in the state of New York, and we talked about this before, they don't have the death penalty. So that's the other thing. Like, you know, he's got the maximum.
Oh, for New York. Okay. Yeah.
Very quickly. But let me just share this very quickly before we take a quick pause. That the judge in the case, she had made a statement. This is Judge Susan Egan. She made this statement very quickly. I want to share this with y'all. There is no place for you or your ignorant, hateful, and evil ideologies in a civilized society. There can be no mercy for you, no understanding, no second chances. The damage you have caused is too great, and the people you have hurt are too valuable to this community. You will never see the light of day as a free man ever again.
Yeah, just thinking about that.
He's the one for the Supreme Court or something.
Yeah, no, those are really heavy words. And again, for the New York justice system, this is the highest penalty. Then, therefore, it could not have been a possibility. So she gave the stiffest penalty that she could, life without the possibility of parole under the circumstances.
And I'm happy she said those words. I'm happy that Judge Susan Egan said those words to just speak to the sentiment, not allowing the fake crocodile tears, not allowing this sorry ass excuse, not allowing none of that to come into play. You will never see the light of day as a free man. No second chances, no understanding. Happy that she said those words. It is what it is. Suzette, we got to take a quick pause. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's have a conversation talking about the latest with the Department of Justice and what they're doing to try to curb gun violence in this country. As we know, with Peyton Gendron and so many other mass shooters, access to guns is always a part of the conversation. I'm going to share with you what the DOJ is doing. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause
Too long have others spoken for us.
We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
Folks, welcome back to the show. Let's switch gears a little bit. As we talked about that horrific mass shooting in Buffalo, let's now talk about the other element of this conversation, which is access to guns. Now, this has always been a part of the discussion when we see these tragedies take place in our country. And so many people are wondering what is going to be done, what has been done, why aren't there stiffer gun laws, or why aren't there stricter requirements for people like a Peyton Gendron or Dylan Roof or any of the mass shooter in this country, or any violent offender of this country? Why aren't there enough rules in place? Well, the Department of Justice announced that they're going to be investing $230 million in their plan to try to bring some level of balance and some control over the access to guns. And a lot of this is going to be going in the direction of creating what they call red flag laws. And I want to bring my sister Suzette speaks back into the frame of this, because red flag laws is something that's already present. This is something that President Biden has certainly talked about, that he thinks that might be helpful in the long run to keep guns out of violent offenders' hands. But this latest investment of this $230 million, it supports temporarily taking guns from potentially violent people. And it's not only is this an investment into these red flag lawsuits, that it's also an investment into crisis intervention programs that will benefit from this money coming from the DOJ. Talk to us about this. First, give us your insight about red flag laws, or they call it extreme risk protection orders. What does that really mean if a person is trying to buy a gun and they might have a violent background?
Yes, so red flag laws are in effect in about 19 states across the United States. And basically what they allow for is some sort of mental health professional or family member having some intervention capabilities. That is to go to a court and say, this person is exhibiting behavior that is a bit troubling. They have committed an act of violence. They have actually been detained on another crime, or they have some sort of mental health episode which would warrant the taking or the possible temporary taking of their weapon up to a year. So we have, again, a state-by-state tapestry of red flag laws. There's no national laws as such, but one of the main roadblocks when it comes to implementation of these laws is funding. So DOJ has said it's setting aside what you have described, $231 million to be sent to the states to help bolster those programs, whether it's to offer more mental health professionals within schools, within the community, or individuals who are going to be answering, for example, some of those crisis intervention phone lines that are offered in different states in terms of how their laws and bills are written. There are other opportunities where money can now be placed and put to good use when it comes to actually implementing what is on the books. So we know oftentimes, I was just reading another study, Farajii, by the U.S. Secret Service, which was just released this month, talking about looking at crime committed by, mass shooters and things like this. And about a third of them, out of 173 crimes that they have studied between 2016 and 2020, about 1/3 of the individuals involved in these mass shootings have had some sort of record where they were either stopped by police, had some kind of domestic violence issue, or did something that warranted some sort of intervention by law enforcement or by a mental health professional. So we know that there are often breadcrumbs that are evident in someone's life who is having a breakdown. And of course, we want to now be more proactive through these laws in hopes that we can eliminate some of the really discouraging numbers that we've seen when it comes to shooters and mass shootings in our country. We've gone, Farajii, from around 2016, it was around 200 upwards to 400, 17, 18, 19, and then 2020, we had an explosion. 600 plus mass shootings in our country, and we are now on track. We're at 71 already as of today's show, and we have been seeing that continued since the pandemic. Something has shifted, and so these red flag laws are like some of the best legislation that we can have on the books to hopefully try to stave off these numbers.
So if we have 70 something mass shootings, and I just want to give folks a context, mass shootings, according to the federal government, the FBI, is when there's a shooting of 4 or more people, not including the shooter, right? And so we're talking about that level of mass. 4 or more people have been shot in a one single incident outside of the shooter. Now, again, this money is coming out of that $1.4 billion package that was given to the Justice Department to try to bring some control to certain issues such as this one. But the question still is going to be asked. I mean, you mentioned it, that this might be the best tool on a legislative side. President Biden has touted the same thing, and others have said the same thing. But how do you get this piece of legislation? Like how does it trickle down from the federal level all the way to the local levels, considering a lot of our states, you talked about those 19s, but a lot of states have different laws relating to guns. Like you can go in one state, you can buy a gun as young as 18 years old, and go into another state, you can buy it at 21. So how does that work out?
Yeah, I mean, we have had officials from both sides of the aisle kind of want to address this, but not really seriously addressing this on the federal level. Democrats mostly have been saying there should be some sort of federalization in terms of mandating these type of laws, but we don't have the political will across the aisle to see these laws passed. Now, I come from a state, Florida. We just celebrated the 5th year anniversary of the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas mass shooting. Sorry, right. Where these children were shot down, cut down at a high school by their fellow classmate. And looking at our laws here, even in Florida, not much has changed. And I heard a commentator say, and I want to give the person credit, they're talking about it in terms of the real border crisis, meaning the gun laws from state to state is really what is preventing a state, for example, like California, who has really strict gun laws, to kind of make a dent in what is actually happening on its streets, because you can go across state borders and be able to get a gun very easily and just drive back with it to your state. Farajii, we are really in a series of, what should I say, proliferation seasons, where there are about 300 million guns that we know of on our streets in the United States. Yeah. So without this type of legal framework, again, it's a patchwork right now. It's state to state. And we need advocates in each state to try to move the ball forward to get some of these gun laws on the books. But what we're seeing funding for was the last attempt on the federal level. This was June of last year, when there was some forward motion on the federal level, which we haven't seen in decades, which allowed for some more stringent rules when it comes to persons' ages and what they have to do to be able to purchase a gun. And we also have a couple other parameters that it allowed for, but it's nothing that is significant enough to say, okay, we're going to have a blanket solution right now. Every state all over the nation has to do it. It's really Absolutely. A state by state patchwork right now, which makes it really difficult to have a unified and national response that is probably needed.
Absolutely. Let me go take a couple of comments from our crew as we have this conversation. And folks, post your comments in our chat section as we're streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Black Star Network, and of course, make sure y'all stay tuned to us on Amazon News. Mara, thank you for checking in. Mara, you said if the wrong person is motivated to do evil, what good would it do? Not as many at once.
Can I respond, please?
Yeah, please.
The real issue is, and this is where the red flag part comes in, someone usually leaves breadcrumbs. And again, you can look up this recently released FBI report on mass shootings. They have said quite a number of the suspects out of that 173 shootings that they studied had shown some indication of stress or duress or major life change or event that triggered them. Now, again, we don't say that as an excuse, but we say that there is usually someone in their life, their coworker, their loved one, somebody they go to, an event with, church or other place of worship, if they're involved in that. But people know people. And so red flags, again, if you have something on your heart, nobody can stop you, but usually a loved one, a father, a mother, a brother or sister, sometimes has the luxury of that type of indication. And therefore, they can make a step through a red flag law to stop the person. It's going to take really a community intervention. No, we can't change their hearts. No, we can't stop them from thinking what they're thinking. But usually someone around them has some sort of indication that something ain't right, something is, not right with them, and really needs to speak up. And we need to have these laws as a mechanism for them to use to go to court and say, we need to remove this person because they have a domestic violence charge or something else that the law also, and I wanted to throw this in, Farajii, not only changed requirements, toughened requirements for young people to have guns, but it also denied firearms for more domestic violence abusers, kind of close that loophole, and bolster funding for mental health programs in schools is what the national legislation that we finally got passed last year, June, did. But of course, there are so many other regulations that should probably be addressed federally.
Oh, no doubt.
But we're waiting on the states to do it. And red flag laws is one way we can do it.
You know what? I think that you're absolutely right in that respect. And I want us to key in on that community part, once we get to the next segment, because I think that's the part about this, right? Like there are, you call it breadcrumbing, and I think it's a great term, because there are signs that a situation, a person can become a violent offender, or a person can become a mass shooter. There are signs. But there's a cultural implication, a cultural element to this conversation where we do not speak up enough to stop. Like Peyton Gendron didn't just pop out of thin air. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody had, like, whether it was in the social media space or in person, somebody knew that that this guy was heading towards being a mass killer. You know what I'm saying? And we can probably go through every major mass shooting, Parkland, all of them, right? And look that the perpetrators always gave signs that something happened. But a lot of times, like I know, Suzette, whether they're in schools or not, a lot of people say, oh, well, they were just good kids. Especially, of course, we know that that's the narrative around white mass shooters. But we're not seeing the signs. Oh, he would never do something like that. We're seeing.
I forget the mass shooting where their parents were afraid of the kid. Right. Was that Chicago? If you go back to the LGBTQ shooting in, I think that was Boulder, in Colorado Springs, he had called a bomb threat on the mother, and the police there was never a report of it, which could have been a red flag to prevent him from being able to purchase a firearm. So yeah, there's a lot of parts. We can't do this in a vacuum. It's gonna take people being able to step up, grandma, them, whoever, to say, wait a minute, something is wrong. I'm afraid of my child or my loved one, or something needs to be done to either get them the mental health element that they need, or to just have them, again, temporarily removing their firearms so that no one else gets hurt.
Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to hear from the crew. Folks, I know many of you are checking in and sharing your thoughts about this. We're talking about the Department of Justice sending out $231 million for red flag laws, crisis intervention programs to keep guns out of the hands of violent offenders. What's your take? Share your comments and share your thoughts. Do you think that this is a good step forward in curbing gun violence in America? So stay with us. All that conversation continues right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
You will not
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shots.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to the show. We have been talking about the latest effort from the Department of Justice in investing over $230 million into red flag laws to help stop guns from getting into the hands of violent offenders. And these laws are set up to protect, set up to as another measure to keep these guns out. Along with those laws, we're talking about crisis intervention programs that can where people feel empowered to say something, programs to deal with gun violence in America. As we know, folks, there are so many guns in this country. There are actually more guns that are in the hands of owners than there are citizens in this country, according to the latest reports, folks. Nearly 400 million guns, and we're not even topping that in terms of population in this country. The last census shows that we were around 320 million people in this country, but there are nearly 400 million guns that are in ownership in the hands of Americans. So this is a gun-loving, gun-toting country that we find ourselves in. I've been talking to my sister Suzette Speaks, lawyer and TV host out of Miami, Florida. And folks, I want to hear from you. Post your comments. Let's hear from you as our culture crew. Would love to get your thoughts. All right, let me go to some of these comments because the crew is talking right now, Suzette. The crew is talking. All right, so Corinna checked in. My sister Corinna, she's on Fridays here on the show. She says, my cousin is a Stoneman Douglas survivor in his second year of college now. Wow, man, that's a great story for this. I was pacing my New York City homeroom that day, trying to contain my panic from my students. Wow. So right there, Suzette, Corinna has firsthand, experience of being in a situation like that, not knowing whether her cousin was going to live or not come out of that school situation. And thank God that her cousin did. And Corinna, that I can only imagine. I could only imagine what you must have been going through on that day. But that's how serious it is. And I think, Suzette, to Corinna's point, we have these conversations as if they're not affecting people, like guns don't affect people. We talk about guns and gun violence, and we even talk about the statistics as if that's not, in Baltimore, there was this culture like, there were 360 shootings or 360 murders rather in Baltimore. And it's like, at the end of the day,
it rolls off our tongues. It just,
there's 360 people connected to 360 families connected, and these families are spread throughout the city. You know what I mean? Like, there is a human element to this conversation, and I'm personally tired of it being so politicized. Well, it's like about access, it's about mental health. No, it's about people.
And it has happened from the top to the bottom. Parkland is one of the most highly affluent places here in South Florida, right? Sandy Hook, these places, it's not just inner city. And think about it, or urban, as people like to say. Think about it, Farajii. That's 3 or more having been shot, right? 4 people for mass shooting. So that doesn't include people who unfortunately experience less than 4 people shot at one time. So the numbers are even much more higher than what we are even discussing, because we're talking mass shooting. So it's really, we've reached a critical point. There are so many times that it seems like, Sandy Hook was going to be the turning point. Parkland was going to be the turning point, that it would just, hit America's soul, the voters' souls, so much so that they would be pressing for legislation. But for some reason, there's no will at the top.
Absolutely. My man Truth is Power checked in, Suzette, and said, could you ask, Suzette, is that bill going to cover ghost guns? Most of these guns that carry out mass shootings are ghost guns, and you don't need to register those. And I know the president has been very vigilant about getting ghost guns off the streets as well. So how does that work?
So I'm not a super expert on all the gun legislation everywhere, right? Okay. But most of the issues that we're having is because ghost guns are not being regulated again enough at the federal level, whether that's making sure that they do have a serial number or they're trackable in some way. So on top of the guns that we do know about, ghost guns have become a huge issue, and President Biden has spoken about them. So whether we, do it at a state by state level or a federal level, that is one of the harder, more, very difficult things for us to track and really deal with. And we do need legislation, stronger legislation, to help address it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me go to Tiana. Tiana makes a good point, and I think this speaks again to culture. She said, Canada stopped all sales of guns. Why can't the U.S. do the same thing? Because we love guns, Tiana.
Tiana, with that Second Amendment crew.
We love guns.
They're not gonna have it. That Second Amendment.
That? No sale of any guns.
The right to bear arms too.
That's like Tiana. That's like saying no burgers being sold in this country.
The hard part is our founding fathers.
Guns, baby. That's how this country rolls.
No, I was just gonna add our founding fathers didn't know about semi-automatic weapons. Were not a thing. People were still using musket powder and putting muskets in guns when these Second Amendment was written. So the idea that a man could pull a trigger and hundreds of bullets in seconds are loaded into people's body and explode in their body, like the concept wasn't even around when we wrote our Constitution. So to think that there is no adjustments that have to be made, or that people wouldn't reasonably say, well, these are weapons of war. How do we regulate them so that more people are safe while still protecting your right to own what you want to own? But it's again, we can't find a medium.
That was the situation, and Tiana, certainly, I'm not saying that's a crazy comment. I'm just saying that, look, we're not even at that point. There's so many steps before we can get to that point as a country. But I think a lot of it is because of the love of guns in our culture that it impacts. But here's the thing: remember that shooting where, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he went into the elementary school, and the police botched that. Uvalde.
Yes.
And how he used a semi-automatic weapon in that mass shooting. That
again, a troubled individual.
To see the children, because that's how much damage was done to the babies there in Uvalde.
So much so that the police didn't want to go in and get shot.
They didn't even want to look at it.
They didn't want to face them in.
They didn't want to look at it. Well, we know the police didn't want to go in because they just watched them do it. So we can, there's so much.
They're scared for their lives, but they're gonna let the babies. Man, please. Like it's very scary.
Right. Janelle checked in. You said the problem with federal money being sent out for state use is the lack oversight. Nobody wants to be accused of abusing states' rights, but some may divert the money and the problem persists. Well, we already know that. That's true. You right on point.
It's earmarked where it has to be in the state's budget for this. But your point is well taken, Janelle.
I will say that in a lot of these states, especially these Republican-controlled states, it's hard to get this. And this is the crazy part. You know, I know some people come on this platform and they say, well, why y'all talk bad about Republicans so much? Roland talks bad about them, but you know, Farajii, you going, because they don't make sense in some of their policies, man. Look, I don't give a damn about a profit that a person can make over people's lives. It does not make sense to me. You want to save this country, but you want to get a profit off of it. People are dying, and you still want to get a profit off of it. You know what I mean? People have access to weapons, high-powered weapons that do real damage, and you're like, well, I mean, as long as they go through these steps and all of that stuff, i.e., I want to get a profit off it. And it's becoming sickening. It's just absolutely sickening how we got to go back and forth and talk about legislation or about an issue where people's lives are literally at stake. And we chopping it up. Well, we can do this, but we can't do that. Like, you piecemeal in a situation as if that thing don't come to your doorstep in one day. You know what I mean? You could be out. And I'm talking to these political leaders. They could be out. Boom, 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 boom. And it's over.
Yeah. It happened. Steve Scalise was at a baseball game and got shot up, like a U.S. House rep. So, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know why common sense gun reform seems to be such a hard thing to achieve. We had a period of semi-automatic weapons ban back under Clinton. So there was, I mean, the Brady Bill, there were so many things. It took very national, again, we have these horrific events to change the face of legislation. But for some reason, in the last like 10 years, you know, since Boulder, Colorado, Dylan Roof them, it has been very difficult for people in Congress to see this is what the will of the people is. This makes, you know, more sense, you know, people over party to do that. We want to do it, but there's a powerful lobby. I'll tell you, the NRA and others, powerful. They give a lot of money to different campaigns and to different individuals. So the will is just not there. And I'm not sure if it will be anytime soon.
That is the sad, sad part. That is the sad. Will the will ever be there? Folks, we got to take another pause. When we come forward, let's check in. Let's have some other conversation in the next hour. We're going to talk to the group Cottonmouth and so much more. So stay with us. We got a lot to discuss in the next hour right here on The Culture, here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the show. Welcome to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. Oh man, if you missed the first hour, make sure you check us out on the replay. You can find all of our replays and all of the big discussions right there on blackstarnetwork.com. Also, we are streaming live right now on Amazon News, where you can download if you got the FireTV stick, then you can just say, Alexa, play news from Black Star Network, and we will be right there for you, covering the conversations, covering the issues, having the conversations that are important to have. And so we are very, very excited to be on the Amazon News platform, where you can find us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But now, folks, I want to switch gears as we talk about guns. And let's go to Hollywood for a little bit and have a conversation about the trials of being a black actor. Now, earlier this week, today is Wednesday, so earlier, I think it was either this week or last week, we had a conversation about what the latest comments came from British actor and black man Idris Elba had to say about him not wanting to be called a black actor. He said that he felt like it was typecasting, putting him in a box. He essentially wants to be seen as just an actor and not just come into the space as black actors. Well, many people kind of push back on that. John Boyega, who is of the Star Wars fame, and he was also in the Woman King. He said, well, you know what, Idris? I mean, it is what it is. I'm black, you're black, we are black actors, right? Well, the conversation continued. I came across this piece that I thought was very interesting. And Suzette, I wanted to get your take on this. And I'm joined by you, my sister, Suzette Speaks, TV host and attorney. And one of the things that was brought up was something that I didn't even know until I saw this piece, something that Nia Long had said about being referred to as a black actor. And I think this needs to be brought to the conversation because it's like, oh, wait a minute. So there are actors, our beloved actors who are in the industry who do feel like, you know what, I might be getting typecasted and at the same time not getting the opportunities, getting the big projects that I want to get. So this is something that Nia Long had said. And I was like, yo, I think she might be right on this because I damn sure see her in this space. This may not be fair, but
she said she black famous.
She black famous.
Well,
I gotta share with you this quote, y'all, because this joint is crazy. This joint is crazy. She said, and I'm pulling it up right now. She said, and this is interesting. She said she raised an eyebrow a few months back when she was commenting on her classification as being quote unquote black famous. She says she doesn't use the term black as a mean to otherize herself and her work. That is the effect that the classification tends to have on mainstream media and audiences. She said, I think terms like that hold us back. And I have to catch myself sometimes too, because I'm very proud of who I am. When I use the word black, I don't use it as a way to separate ourselves from anyone. I use it as a way to put out an exclamation point behind our greatness, because I don't think that it's always been celebrated and recognized. I'm here to represent who we are. And if you want to come along for the ride, everyone's welcome.
Let's go. Yeah.
But she said she's black famous.
Wait,
hold on, because I'm hearing two different things. Then you're a lawyer, you understand the power of words and stuff. So I want you to check me. I want you to check me to make sure I'm not hearing something crazy. So she doesn't want to be put in a box. She doesn't, but she recognizes she's a black woman. She knows she's a black woman. She's proud of a black woman. But she also says, I'm black famous. How do we
Is she not
that?
black famous? Is that what we're arguing?
No, you know what? Actually,
I think
she is black famous.
That was gonna say, isn't she black famous? Like,
I think no.
Where's the lie? Where's the?
Yeah. Black famous in the sense of her projects appeal to black folks.
Right. So so there's a lot of.
You know, you go down.
Do white people follow Nia Long like black people follow Nia Long? Or white people is kind of tuned into her? And they're aware of her work the way we are? You probably know better than me.
What?
That white people are in tune to Nia Long's career, follow her, cheer for her as kind of dedicatedly as black folks do?
Here's why I say that it's not the same. Because the projects that she's involved in aren't big budget projects.
Okay.
Her projects are very cultural.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Now, we loved her since Fresh Prince.
All the way,
right? We never got that character out of our head. We've always loved her. She kind of stole our hearts, right? Especially for the guys. You know what I mean? I had a crush on Nia Long. So
the ladies too, with that little shortcut. We was like, yes, Nia. Yes.
She was just like, all right. So, But then we've seen her projects, but a lot of projects, she's not getting those type of mainstream projects that focuses on, you know, strong black women characters.
or just women. So okay, here's the tough part, and I understand, and I'm not going to speak for or try to defend Mr. Idris Elba. Let me just put that right there. Idris Elba has tried to clarify since making this initial statement. I think it was an Esquire interview talking about his new role, a revamp of an English, I think it's a TV series called Luther. He's coming back. Luther is like a detective, very strong, traditionally masculine kind of role. And I love it. I love British TV, period. So I was watching Luther and it's coming back. So fine. So he's trying to say that how I interpreted what he was trying to say in that article was that sometimes I feel limited by saying that I'm a Black actor. I can just be an actor. And then he went on to Twitter to try to clarify yet again when it ruffles some feathers. Not saying I agree, but when it ruffles some feathers, he's trying to say I'm always going to be Black. He's like, I think Ghanaian, Sierra Leonean, British, but he's just like saying people have tried to box him in. And I think John Boyega was kind of added on, like, even though the system is trying to tell you, because you're a Black man who is an actor, you can only be this type of role. You can't be James Bond, for example, because his name came up when it came to the reprisal of the James Bond new chapter of the series, and people were saying, are we ready for a Black James Bond? That's not to say that Idris Elba as an actor was not ready to be James Bond, but the culture, the society at large, in which James Bond has become kind of like this cultural phenomenon. But he's not a historical figure. It doesn't say in any book or anything else like that he has to be white. Why would it be that he couldn't play that role? So he was trying to make a kind of comparison. Like, you don't say you're a Black architect. You don't say you're a Black, I don't know, fill in the blank career. You just say you're that career. And he's trying to see himself more as transcendent of race. Yeah. But I think it can be interpreted as saying that he has less pride in his race. I think you can want to be respected as just the best in your craft, the first Black this. Why am I just the first person to do this? But it never gets kind of reported that way. I don't know if we are foisting race upon ourselves or the outside world is putting us in that box.
I said this before.
He's trying to say he's comfortable in his skin and he wants to be, and he's proudly Black. Can nobody say he wasn't? But that all the time it seems like it creates a kind of bubble in which he cannot escape, and people are not necessarily seeing
Idris Elba's not that guy. Idris Elba, if you follow Idris Elba's path, his career, he's broken out of the Black famous space.
Yes.
He's been a part of big budget films, right? He's a part of smaller films. He's producing and directing his own projects now at this point. So he is like for him to make that statement, it was a little bit like confusing, because from my vantage point, bro, you've been part of $300 million, you know what I'm saying, like $1 million situations. You know what I'm saying? You were part of, his stuff is just crazy. He could be in the Marvel, the MCU, to being a part of the Fast and Furious, you know what I mean? Like he's a part of huge franchises. So, and then he does smaller projects, stuff that I saw that project he did with talking about his childhood growing up in London as a Black man, as a Black boy. Very funny, like coming of age project. So he's a part of all of that. He's not Black famous. When you say Idris Elba, he is not Black famous. He even did The Wire, rooted and based in Baltimore.
Oh no. He's got an amazing career, Farajii, but we only know of what he has received. We don't know about the projects he has not received or was passed over.
That's true. That's true. But what I'm saying, though, is that the projects that he has received and the projects that he starred in, those projects could have gone to white actors.
Oh, absolutely. Transcendent.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he's such a presence. Like, his skills has brought him to that point. And I think I understand, trust and believe. I understand when he's saying that he's not a Black actor. And I understand what Nia Long is saying. I think for Nia Long, it's a different path. I don't know what projects she's turned down and what projects were offered that she's turned down versus the projects she accepted. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if she put herself in that space or not. I don't know if it's because of her skill or not. I don't know. I'm not saying, because I love Nia Long, so I don't want nobody to throw no shade and be like, Nia Long, no, I love Nia Long. But I see there's a group of Black women actresses who are in the same space. Nia Long, Regina Hall, right? We're talking about Sanaya Lathan. Like, these are women that are Black famous, and I think you got to ask the question: is that some Megan Good? In some ways, you got to ask yourself the question: like, are these the project? Or is it the project, or is it because of that's how people in the institution and the industry sees you? I don't know. Look, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, I want to hear from you, crew. What do you think about the trials of a Black actor? What Nia Long has said months ago, what Idris Elba continues to say, and the conversation that is bringing up. What's your take? Stay with us. We're going to share your comments and so much more right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Folks, welcome back to the show. We have been talking about the trials of a Black actor based on the latest comments coming from Idris Elba, who said he doesn't refer to himself as a Black actor anymore because he finds it to be typecasting, confining. Then there is the statements made that Nia Long made for another interview a couple of months ago, where she understands that, look, I love who I am. I'm proud of where I come from. But at the same time, I don't see myself as a Black actress. She recognizes that she is Black famous. And so we've been talking about these things culturally. What does it mean? How should we make sure that those who stand before us on film and on a stage and really see themselves as being representatives of our creative and cultural brilliance? We'll continue the conversation right now. We got my sister Suzette Speaks, and I want to hear from you, my crew, the Culture crew, on this topic. All right, let me go to what the crew got to say on this one right now. Mimi D 726, Nia is Black famous. Idris is more mainstream. Plus, he's British and they live in different spaces across the pond. LOL, right? They live in, exactly. And I don't know if the gender thing it plays into it, Suzette.
I think his Britishness has more to play into it.
Yeah. Okay. So
the fact that a lot of people who come from England are well-trained actors, I think they can navigate spaces that Black American actors, and we've talked about, I don't know if we've talked about it, but we've talked about it here in the United States, how they can get roles where traditional African American actors may not be considered so readily for the same roles. So yeah, I think that is an element that allows for his kind of universality as opposed to maybe the gender.
It's definitely been a big conversation because I've heard young Black men have this conversation that the opportunities, the acting opportunities that they wanted to take actually has been given to other young Black British actors. Damson Idris, who plays the title role of Franklin Saint in the show Snowfall, he's British. Daniel Kaluuya.
Yep. And now, mind you, they're well trained. They go to like
well-trained actors now. Well-trained actors, but
we will tend to be like, we want.
But see, that doesn't look as one who studied acting. It's like I get the pushback from black male actors who are like, yo, I'll come from this place, right? And then I'm still not given the opportunities afforded. And it creates a level of division among Black men, right? Where you start to get mad and envious of your brother from across the pond
Yeah, the
because he's
diaspora
getting
as a
the
whole.
opportunities that you think that you should be getting, right? I mean, not Idris, but Damson Idris, he's a Brit. Like when y'all listen to him speak in real life, he's got a thick British accent. But when you see him on Snowfall, you think he's from
They're
South
so
Central.
good. They're so good. You almost forget.
You know what I'm saying? You be like, well, what's going on? Karen, I know you know what I'm talking about. But then same thing with the young brother from In All American. He's British.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Spencer James, the one who plays Spencer James, he's British. But again, so some I've heard this part of the conversation, Suzette, where black men are saying, yo, is this a thing? Like, is this going to be the trend where you start to, look outside of black males who bring a certain level of authenticity to the role and to the space, and getting British black males instead? And like I said, it creates some level of dissension between two black men, which we don't need, especially in Hollywood when there are already limited roles on what black men can do and not do. The days of, I love them. I love all these brothers, but they're coming to the end. So we're looking for the new cadre. So you got like a Lawrence Fishburne, a Morgan Freeman, a Denzel Washington, right? Or Forrest Whitaker. Like all of these black men who have become like pillars of like great black cultural, artistry, they're not going to be in those spaces forever.
Right.
So you are looking for the next cadre. You are.
Well, I think it was Samuel L. Jackson that said also
Samuel Jackson.
Those actors may come at a lower price. I don't know. I think I'm kind of paraphrasing his sentiments on the issue. But yeah, there are a lot of ways in which Hollywood would create these kind of environments where we're trying to get the same small piece of the pie instead of kind of an enlarged portion as a whole. So we have to be very careful about these type of what should I say, industrialized biases. It's not really us versus them, but you have an industry that creates a limited amount of movies per year, that funds a limited amount of movies per year with these type of roles. If that's what, and again, back to Idris is saying, why am I only limited to these type of roles? So again, right. Are we confining ourselves, or are we being confined? That's what I think Idris's point was. He's not saying I don't love my blackness, but I feel by saying I can only be a quote black actor, I'm somehow being limited by where I can reach. And again, we know he's gone through some really wonderful international blockbuster kind of, piece of works. But again, what has he not been offered? Because they're like, well, he's a black guy. We
even to talk around James, like again, people are bringing your name up as being the next James Bond, a very beloved character, especially in the British, in the British film industry, right? Like James Bond is British, right? So it's like your name is coming up in that. You are not the same. I'm so sorry, Brother Idris, but you are not the same. I get it. I don't know where that sentiment came from. I don't know what roles that you wanted to get that you did not get, but you have been literally brought up in changing the whole. I mean, this is James Bond, and now they're talking about it's like changing the color of Superman or something. You know what I mean?
That's why it's a concern. That's why many people, we're excited, but not everybody is excited about that type of. I don't know if the makers of said movie might want to, dare I say it, like some kind of compromise the brand. That is, I think, the question people are kind of afraid of. Not to say that the masses wouldn't enjoy it if you just presented to them just like another badass Bond, the way you always do. But there is this kind of undertone, racially speaking, of the industry's concerns. Again, making money is their main concern, and wondering if, quote, black actor is marketable enough to carry on this, Bond legacy, for example. But it again, he's trying to, and I think, again, paraphrasing what I interpreted from that article, is that he's trying to say, I don't want to be limited. Don't place this limit on me. I happen to be in black skin, which I'm proud of, but I feel like I'm being put in a box by saying he is a black actor. I'm not saying that. I think you can have self-pride and pride in your race, while also trying to stretch yourself and say, don't put me in a box. But I think, again, it can be misinterpreted the way you kind of take it out of context, or people look at it and say, no, you're Black. We know he's Black. He's not trying to say he's not Black. He's trying to say, why is it that when I walk into a room, I'm being like, okay, in one box, no, you can't get all the rest of these wonderful parts because you're Black. No.
Right.
No. So, and that's another thing of, people are going into colorless casting, into things that, in the old English or whatever that would have been, quote unquote, typically a white person. They're now just casting everybody like a Cinderella and these other stories, etc. Where you had Brandy and you had other people. Little Mermaid.
You know what? I'm sorry. Like, that is the nature of the business, the nature of Hollywood, the nature of theater, the nature of performing arts. And as an actor, color is going to come up. I'm sorry. Like, there are some roles that are not colorblind roles, right?
You can't have a white Othello. You can't have a white certain people. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's just certain things like you just like somebody, one of the crew members brought up Black Panther. Like, if Black Panther was a white guy, like, you just don't do that. You know what I mean?
It's called Black Panther. That would be strange. Imagine.
But I'm just saying, like, there are certain roles. So I mean, it's not necessarily like I'm not all the way around, for this idea, like, have this colorless metric when you come. No, there are some characters, there are some figures that are being portrayed that you need to look at. I need a Black person. I need a white person. I need a Latino.
Agreed. But beyond that, there are people that will say if it's a stockbroker, it should be a white guy. Where we know that stockbrokers.
Okay, I get that. So you're talking about. I get that. That's a person's bias.
Right.
No. I get that. I totally get that. And here's the other thing. And you brought this point up, Suzette, is the availability of such actors. You know what I'm saying? Like, the industry is going to invest. Like, if they know that they have an investment, and I'm sorry, folks, I'm going back to this point I made many times where I was like, no, stop acting like Black folks aren't being double, we don't live according to a double standard, right? Like, that is the nature of that's part of our existence in this country, where there is a double standard. I know some of us push back, like, why is that? Why do they treat us bad? Because we are. It's just, what I'm saying?
Systemic.
We came into this country being property. And because of God and our resilience, you know what I'm saying? We became presidents and all of these other things. But guess what? There is a double standard. White supremacy and racism will not allow some people to see beyond the value of who we are as human beings. It just won't allow it. It's a poison. So that's a moot point to me. Yeah. So you got to know, and we can push back on it, but at the end of the day, it's there. Hollywood has propagated that. As much as we want to think like, and Hollywood has propagated, media has propagated that. The things that you and I are part of have led to how people see Black men and Black women. I mean, it is what it is, but that's why we're in these spaces, right? Because we're going to change the game. We're going to do something. That's why Brother Roland even created Black Star Network, because there is a real need to have for us to tell our stories, plead our case. And so it gets to be in this crazy space. And I'm saying, if Black actors don't want to be seen as Black actors, that's fine. But just know that Hollywood is going to treat you a certain way, right? And if you don't want to be Black famous, again, we don't know all the ins and outs.
Diane Carroll once said this. Diane Carroll said her career would have been so much more different and more just successful. Now, Diane Carroll is one of the greats, icon, but she knows that she wasn't given, and she was one of the first to push through the door, the same available roles, and given the same type of blockbuster possible movies that her white counterparts were given, and TV shows that her white counterparts were given. Like, she knows that, and she was saying that back in the 60s and the 70s. So we still have this kind of institutionalized racial bias that still doesn't allow for you to blossom fully in your whole entire career worth of talent, Regina Hall. Your whole ability is kind of limited to a certain casting, a stereotype of Black, real Black woman, without saying I could kind of be just a universal, this role requires woman in her 30s, woman in her 20s, and just be that role. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I see their point in saying we just want to be actors. Allow us to act. I understand that they never put down their Blackness, nor can they. As you're saying, it's a part of who they are. But I think Boyega's point was more so that, do we need to adjust ourselves for a system that really wasn't designed to have us at the center anyway? Or do we try to push for institutionalized change while still kind of unapologetically wearing our Blackness? I'm not sure what is the answer. I think we can do both.
I think we can do both too. I think we can do both as well. And to want to Rashida guess real quick, your point, Rashida, was the Black actors are being confined and stifled by the Black community as well. I think for a lot of us, it's like we do want to hold on to some great artistic representation, right? We do want to feel like, oh, they are part of the community, they represent us. But if you look at the great ones, such as like a Sidney Poitier, who made it his life's work to be in those spaces, to break through those barriers. You know what I'm saying? It's interesting
how this done. You also had like a Harry Belafonte that wouldn't take a role. That wouldn't take a role that a Sidney Poitier would take, because Harry Belafonte would say, I don't want to be the subservient Negro to this type of person in this role. But Sidney Poitier was like, give me a job, let me work it. So I think we need soldiers on both sides.
We need soldiers on both sides. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk to the guys of Cottonmouth. These are YouTube sensations that's taking comedy and storytelling to the next level. So stay with us. That conversation is up next with Suzette and, of course, with you right here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie. We'll laugh together, cry together, pull ourselves together, and cheer each other on. So join me for new shows each Tuesday on Black Star Network, A Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, we're going to be checking in with the group Cottonmouth in a few moments. And, Suzette, I wanted to take a couple of more comments from our crew, because folks have been checking in about this. They have been checking in about this, and rightfully so. I think that as part of the culture of the landscape here on Black Star Network, we should have this conversation about it. All right, let's bring Suzette back into the frame. So Real Brooklyn said, I'm sorry, James Bond is a white dude, can't see Idris as James Bond. What if somebody made a film about Black Panther being white? Real Brooklyn, that's what I get it. Some characters you can't change, though.
I'm sorry, I disagree, but okay. You don't think Idris Elba would not be the smooth? You can't get a Black James Bond. No, I disagree.
You can't get Can you get a Black James Bond?
We might. They say, what's his name? Reggae Jean Piage, something like this. The guy who was in Bridgerton.
Oh, that's the brother from Bridgerton.
Yep, he's being talked about. I think we could. James Bond is like, just smooth, powerful, sex symbol, action hero. As long as you could do all those things, I don't see why he could not be Black. But again, will the powers that be think that they can make the money is the question.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Let me take one more. Karen, my sister, you said after the discrimination Meghan Markle experienced, we can be sure there are British people who are not like a black James Bond. Actually, she said, now, I watched that little documentary that her and Prince Harry did, right? And she said that the feedback that they've gotten, and they may not talk about this in the mainstream British papers, but they said a lot of Britons don't mind having a black woman. Matter of fact, they're like the monarchy and the whole situation, the whole royal system needed to be uprooted, and that they're looking for change. And I think this is part of the growing consciousness. I think that is happening all over the world, where, and I've said this before, but you're starting to see that more and more white people are becoming more and more dissatisfied with the system of racism because it's not sustainable. It's becoming it's enveloping so many, all of us, right? It's taking down everybody. It's not just taking out black people, Latino people, Asian people. It's taking down white people. You cannot build a world, you cannot build a reality on false ideas when the time for truth is present. You know, when people are growing into a larger consciousness about themselves, and they're emerging much more, history is like, you can't cover up history and all of these things. When things are like this is happening, this is a universal order, Suzette, that I think is happening. Truth is being told regardless to whom or what, wherever they are, wherever it is, you can't stop them. So either we could ride that wave of acting as if, oh no, we're going to hold on to this old world order, or we could ride the new wave of, recognizing, like, you know what? We can't stop the truth from coming out. We got to disrupt white supremacy and racism.
Yeah, I think also with regards to the economics of it, meaning some people have called it the have-yachts and the have-nots. I think there are people that are waking up also to the fact that maybe they're not, at the front and center of governmental policy. When it comes to the environment, or when it comes to, as we're talking about distribution of federal funds, et cetera, maybe you're not getting your Medicaid or your Medicare or your other parts of your life kind of preserved for you, the working class and then the working middle class, because there are people at the top that think, oh no, you shouldn't have that, or looking at the profit margins they can make when you don't. So I think there's also an awakening around the economics of our society, across, racial lines, that, we're challenging these, structures and these past, which I say, these institutions that have never been questioned before. We're looking at them and we're saying, wait a minute, how come, and I forget the ballpark, it's like 10% of the British population owns 70% of the British land. Like, why is that? Because of old time colonialism, and that no one who grew up in the kind of underclass of the aristocracy just never got a chance to catch up, and they still don't have a chance to catch up. So I think there are parts of that culture now that are really being challenged, both for what you've described, the racial injustices, as well as the economic disparities that those systems produce.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, folks, look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to talk to the funny guys of Cottonmouth, Suzette, and talk about what they're doing and how they are becoming a YouTube sensation. Stay with us. That conversation is up next here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about
covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland@RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Folks, welcome back to the show. For our final discussion that me and Suzette are going to have is with some folks from the hilariously funny comedic group called Cottonmouth. These are four black men who have decided to take the digital space by storm, and we're so happy and excited to have them here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network, to talk about why and how they have become such a YouTube and social media sensation. So let's welcome now to the platform Cottonmouth. Who we got? Look at this.
What's going on? What up, though?
Love it.
You good, my boy?
What's going on, guys? What's going on? So I want everybody to introduce themselves to our watching audience here.
Okay, cool. Should we start over here?
Yeah, let's go that way.
Yeah.
My name Dookie Duke.
My name J Money. My name G Ball. Fuck you saying? And I'm Rico.
All right, so Dookie. All right, first and foremost, how did you guys start working together? What brought you guys together to do these sketch comedies?
Hey, we was all homies already, and we was just working on, different things. Mm-hmm. And then eventually we just started making people laugh.
And I caught a couple freaks over, and that was it. Fuck you saying?
On me.
That part.
All right, so y'all were just figuring out. Y'all was just like talking about it and just saying like, "Yo, we should take this show on the road. We should do something on YouTube." Is that it?
Yeah, we started off doing music, and then once we started doing that, we see the opportunity to try something else out. We started doing comedy, and then it was a wrap from there.
After a couple Dutches and the fifth of hen, it was over with.
All right, so who's the funniest of the four?
Yeah, we all got our days. Fuck you say. Definitely got our days.
All right, so now now, based on the information that we saw, you guys are coming from South Bend, Indiana. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The trenches.
The trenches.
Where it ain't
now,
safe.
I'm gonna be honest with you. Like, for a lot of comedians, we know they come from the bigger cities, but to hear that they got some great talent out of South Bend. What was it like growing up in South Bend?
Everybody know each other.
Yeah, and it ain't much to do here.
We grew up playing this when
it's a small city.
We geeked for this. So like the movie.
So it's a small city, not a much to do. So how did you guys like in terms of the culture growing up there? What were some of the big things that made you guys laugh?
You know what I think really got into it at school, in high school, middle school, we used to have roast sessions.
Yeah, lunch table.
You
gotta survive the lunch table roast. You know what I'm saying?
That's where it all started.
It's kind of like your rite of passage.
Okay.
And we just brought it to the internet.
Oh, okay. So y'all used to do it at the lunch table. I think everybody has had that. And I want to bring my sister Suzette into this into the conversation. Suzette,
I don't want to roast her though.
What you say?
Please don't roast me.
We got enough ammo to go around.
I bet. Please don't. I have not seen the show yet, so I'm excited. Thank you for being here. Can you tell me about what you talk about and some maybe like the topics or the themes that you guys cover on your show?
It's a lot of different things.
Anything that's relevant, if anything that's viral and that's getting a lot of chatter online.
Sports, food,
yeah, we like food. Food.
Got a lot of food.
I love chicken.
Some scripts.
Or anything relatable. Like if you can relate to it, then we probably like to talk about it.
Okay, cool. Are you kid friendly?
Oh, yeah, sometimes. Sometimes
you
can be.
Except the dude with the white tee that talk about hannies and freaks.
You gotta excuse my boy.
You gotta have my freaks.
So you're kid friendly, but at the same time, y'all actually cover the culture just as much as we cover the culture here.
For sure.
Oh yeah,
for sure. They call us the Adult Sesame Street.
That's what I was going to say. Like it's like a Sesame. It's like an urban Sesame Street.
I see.
Yeah, for sure.
They just don't have Cuban links.
Not really dancing. They don't have rollies on Sesame Street.
Now, are you guys scripted or do you guys kind of just riff off each other?
Yeah, it's all improv.
All improv.
We don't write nothing down.
Wow. That's a lot of skill to
talent. Yes,
I've worked with comedians, and that's a skill that not every comedian has. What's at the root of that for a lot of you?
I feel like the funniest things come from when you first look at it, and the first thing that come to your mind.
That's fact.
Just non-filtered. Just say what you think, and it'd be funny.
We be saying mostly what everybody want to say, and we just attack it head on.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. Half the videos I say the first thing that pop in my head.
I also go off personal experiences too.
Oh, that too.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, one of our crew members, check it in. She asked a question. Do you sing or rap too?
A little bit of both.
I want to hit him with some Chris Brown real quick.
Oh.
What you trying to do, dude?
It's never the right time to say goodbye, but I gotta be the first move, cause if I don't, you're gonna start hating me. And I really don't feel the way I once felt about you. Girl, it's not you, it's me. I gotta figure out what I need. Oh, that's just a little.
You gotta have it now.
Yes. Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Yo, why do my locks look like my man's locks just flying all over the place when you talk?
You need a little help.
He talking about you just.
All right, so now that you guys are like now talk to us about this you being a YouTube sensation. Where like how many people have been checking you guys out, and how does that affect the chemistry and the content you guys are putting out there?
Man, we got like a little over 100,000 followers on YouTube.
Right.
Nice.
That's great.
Nice.
Yeah, we be going crazy. They be showing love. They love it.
So talk to us about the content, like in terms of like now you got people listening, people checking y'all out, subscribing to your page and everything. Does that change the you know what you put out there?
Not really.
Not
we try to
part.
stay grounded to what we, you know, what we do, what we did to come where we are today. But of course, we still try, like, with as many people as we got watching us, we try to capitalize on it. So like now we get to do things like that we never got to do before. Like we got artists in the group, we got musicians in the group, you know, and it goes all the way around. So now we get to capitalize and do those things instead of just making people laugh, you know?
Right.
Yeah, we do a little bit of everything now.
Do a little bit of everything.
Oh yeah.
That's dope right there. That's dope right there. And and I'm wondering, and Suzette, I don't know if this question popped into your head. Like, do you think about taking your show on the road, from getting out for the digital space and putting it into a show of some sort?
Oh yeah.
We just need bookings.
Yeah, we need bookings. We trying to do that Cottonmouth tour.
We get asked that question a lot.
Coming to a city near you.
Okay. Okay.
So people are asking online. So your main platform is YouTube?
YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. We everywhere.
Okay, perfect. And did you guys design your own outfits for each of your puppets?
Oh yeah.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, most of our stuff we design.
And shout out to my jeweler.
It is busting in the light. I see it.
Oh my soul.
That's dope right there. That's dope right there. Folks, we gotta I want to get some more comments, folks. We have been talking about talking to the group Cottonmouth. You can find them. At least let's play a little bit of just some of their clips of their work, because these guys, they're actually very funny. So take a look at this.
What up?
What they do?
We doing them reactions.
I know what it is.
What up? And this one hot off the press. We just seen this pop up, so we gonna get into it. I know, y'all remember Super Mario?
Dude,
it's a
that was
classic.
my stuff. I ain't gonna lie to you. I stole my first cartridge at UP Mall. Fuck you saying? Real story. Electronics, I was hitting them. Fuck you saying? Oh my God.
You know, we grew up playing this. When it first came out, we was youngins.
Oh my
so we geeked for this.
Oh my soul.
So look, the movie coming out, we about to react to the trailer. The sound download, we not trying to get copyrighted. We about to go crazy.
I'm excited for this, man. Y'all excited?
All right, 3, 2.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie to you. I've been wanting to see a new Mario movie too. Like you saying.
Look at Mario.
Look at him though.
Okay. He look realistic.
Don't he?
He look taller though.
His face look like a potato. Smush. Or whatever 21 Savage said.
And I'm gonna be looking in the background.
Is that Donkey Kong?
Wait a minute.
Is that Donkey Kong?
Oh, yeah, that's my boy.
What the fuck you saying?
He said, run. This look like Super Smash Bros.
Don't it?
My soul, dude.
He beating the coins out there, man. You putting the bitches on.
Oh my soul.
That was Bow Wowzer.
I ain't gonna lie, this joint crazy.
That was little Bow Wowzer.
Look at the little shells.
Oh, why he got Luigi?
Look at the mushroom.
The mushrooms look real too.
Don't they? You see the texture on Bowser?
Now that I think about it, Mario was on drugs.
Why?
The mushroom to feel good.
Oh yeah.
Got bigger.
Whoa.
Yeah. Hallucin.
You just saying. Wait, they got Peach as a warrior out here?
Oh, they snapping.
Oh man.
Wasn't she always getting kidnapped?
Oh my soul.
Okay, then put that work in.
She ain't going no more.
She can't be soccer forever.
Look at this part though.
Oh, look at the video game.
This going crazy.
Oh, yeah, he need another life.
He needs some more coins.
Oh my son.
I can't wait to go see that.
All right, there we go. All right, so here's the question, because I think that a lot of people, they're trying to see, like, okay, y'all are in this space, y'all having these conversations. My guy, Real Brooklyn, one of my crew members, he checked in and he said they have to get a female up in the group too, and a token white dude. It'll make it more interesting to use this as a platform for real thoughts and controversies.
Ooh,
okay.
I do like that.
What's y'all take on that?
That's different standpoints. I like that.
And it's crazy. We got some skits, right, that got female characters in it. So sometimes it's females in our videos,
right?
And sometimes it be people of the Caucasian descent.
On me,
right? White.
Yeah. Sometimes we got another female. Her name is Cookie.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Cookie
got a baby on the way too. Cookie's saying.
Yeah, Cookie.
Okay.
But yeah, we do need to add more controversy. I like that.
Yeah.
Right, in terms of thoughts and controversy. Now people have known about this type of entertainment because of Jim Henson and Muppets and all of those things. But my question is, are you guys looking to redefine that level of artistry? You know what I'm saying? Where it's not just about learning numbers and words, but it's really about expressing yourself in a different way.
Exactly. Yeah, sure. You hit it on the nose. It's kind of like when people look at a puppet, they think, oh, well, kids and babies and, like you said, learning numbers and stuff like that. But we like to think of it as like, these are real people. We look at these people like, this is really Rico. This is really G-Ball. This is really my bad. But we get to become these people through these puppets. It's not like we get on here with a purpose to go try to push forward maybe a message and like that. We just get to become the best versions of ourselves that maybe we can't be in front of other people. Maybe we too shy to be that in front of other people. So now we get to do this and be ourselves.
Talk your talk. I like that.
I like that.
I felt that question. I felt it.
That's how we express.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. All right, so we got like a minute left, guys, and wanted to give you a chance to just talk to our watchers. What do you want them to do? How you want them to support? And if you guys are looking to take the show on the road, how can we make that happen for you?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a good question. Start by subscribing to the YouTube.
YouTube. Cat and mouth. Make sure it's an F at the end.
Yes, sir. Spit when you say it, and just continue to show love to what we do, man. Because we put in a lot of work, and we love to, make people laugh. So it's just really about word of mouth. Just keep spreading the love and how we do it. And before you know, we might be coming to a city before you.
Yeah, that's right there. There it is. Cottonmouth checking in. Brothers, I truly, truly appreciate you. I'm so happy that you guys are in this space. I mean, it's a different place to be in, but to have four brothers who are coming together using their talents, comedic talents, musical talents, to try to share, have conversations is beautiful, man. It's all good for the culture, brother. So I thank y'all for coming on today.
Thank you,
man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Folks, definitely check out Cottonmouth on all social media platforms. Subscribe to their show and possibly open up your mind about what can be done in the artist space. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we'll have some final thoughts. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Pull up a chair. Take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jackie Hood Martin, and I have a question for you. Ever feel as if your life is teetering and the weight and pressure of the world is consistently on your shoulders? Well, let me tell you, living a balanced life isn't easy. Join me each Tuesday on Black Star Network for a Balanced Life with Dr. Jackie.
We're all impacted by the culture, whether we know it or not. From politics to music and entertainment, it's a huge part of our lives, and we're going to talk about it every day right here on The Culture with me, Farajii Muhammad, only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
All right, folks, welcome back. We got a final few moments. I want to bring my sister Suzette back into the frame. Suzette, that was funny as hell.
Yes, they're different. And I think it's good to have that kind of new creative blood in the space. So shout out to the gentleman of Cottonmouth.
Oh, definitely. Big shout out to the brothers of Cottonmouth, man. Y'all, and hopefully they are going to join like different spaces, fan base and some other spaces to get their work out there. But that's what it requires, right? You know what I mean? We talk about the culture. There are so many different elements of our culture that we aren't privy to. And we say, oh, that person is not good enough for this person or that. And it's like, look, you got 4 black men using their talents as comedians and as musicians and artists to create puppets. They created their own puppets.
Yeah.
All I'm going to say is when Cottonmouth become as big as Sesame Street, don't jump.
Hello. Well, they say don't despise, humble beginnings. Everybody got to start somewhere, and they're very talented. So you never know. They evolve, brands evolve, and new opportunities come. So good luck to them.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Suzette, we got a couple of moments. Folks, if you don't know, Suzette is actually a host of her own show called Suzette Speaks that's airing on YouTube. You can subscribe to her page as well. Suzette, what you got working on for your show?
Oh, I'm so excited. I will be doing a show this Saturday on inflation. Yes, we'll be talking about how you're dealing with your grocery bill and more. I think with the CPI, Consumer Price Index numbers just came out, and they're saying that inflation is going down, but we as Americans we're still feeling it. So I want to know how we're coping with that. On Monday, I'll be live with a young lady in tech. We're going to be talking about Black women in the tech space with
nice.
Pena. That's Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And then Tuesday, I have my homegirl, Janice Gaffney, 10 mistakes people make in weight loss, right? If you're on that weight loss journey, it's still early in the year, y'all. Don't give up. We're going to be talking with a fitness expert who creates workout plans for working moms online and people who stay at home in general. So she does meal plans. She does, fitness workouts. She'll be on Tuesday, and I do 3 or 4 shows a week, and I always try to just keep the topics very interesting. We'll be talking tonight about the Super Bowl. I know some of y'all had a lot to say, so come join me. I think I'm going to go on a little earlier. I said 7 Eastern tonight, but we'll be talking about what you felt about the Rihanna halftime and the
did you like it
and much more.
All right, so that sounds great, and I want y'all to subscribe to Suzette Speaks show. At least let's put that YouTube page up when we get a quick chance. But Suzette Speaks, you can subscribe to her show, folks. You can continue to support her financially. This is all a part of us supporting Black media, Black voices, creating a larger Black network. Because what we speak about here, Suzette can speak about there, and other groups can speak about somewhere else. So this is all one effort, folks. But I wanted to know, what did you think of the Super Bowl? Did you like her halftime performance?
I did, but I'm a fan.
Okay.
But yeah, I think sometimes, what we do is compare, styles of, performance. Rihanna, I think, focus a lot more on her vocals as opposed to, she's not going to drop it and pop it. She's not that type of performer.
Did she lip sync though, Suzette?
No, she didn't lip sync. She hit a couple of them notes. I think she was focused and she hit a couple of them notes. Of course, you have that voice track behind you at all times, but she was inhaling and I think genuinely singing, I believe, on many points during the show. But we're going to talk about that. I want to talk about, Jalen Hurts. How can we, we know Patrick Mahomes, and of course, Patrick Mahomes deserves his full due. But I think sometimes we have not heard as much about, Jalen Hurts and his family. He comes from a great 2-parent household, very successful, family structure. And sometimes I don't think we're getting to hear as much about him, especially leading up to the big game as we probably could have. And I just want to, touch on a couple other things that I saw going on throughout, the broadcast. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the sign language. Hello, Justina.
Yes.
I couldn't spell Justina Miles, but I used to know sign language, guys. Talking about all the elements. Shirley Ralph killed it with the Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Yeah.
NFL still has its issues. We're not going to forget that, Colin Kaepernick, but we're still going to talk about the ways in which Black culture was represented and what y'all felt about it. So I can't wait to talk about this tonight.
That is awesome. Suzette Speaks, folks. Make sure y'all subscribe. Make sure y'all support. And y'all can check out Suzette here every Wednesday right here on The Culture. Suzette, always a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you, Farajii. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate you.
And keep up the great work, Suzette. We definitely need you. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you. Now, before y'all hop off, make sure y'all do y'all due diligence and support us here at Black Star Network. You can go to blackstarnetwork.com. Support the platform, because this is not a small feat that we are taking on. We are taking on a major undertaking of creating a very, very important and large digital space. So support Black Star Network. You can do so. You can financially support us. You can continue to share the content. And most importantly, let your friends and family know. But download the app for free on all of your devices. But your support means so much. It means everything to us. So make sure you show your support for us at blackstarnetwork.com. Also follow us on all social media platforms at Black Star Network on IG and Twitter. And you can follow me, yours truly, Farajii Muhammad. You can follow me on social media at Farajii on Twitter, The Real Farajii on IG. And I would love to build with you. That's going to do it for me, folks. I thank all of you. I want to thank my dynamic team. I want to thank Lise for checking in, and for Lise for being behind the boards, my man Keenan, Joel, my control room. And I want to thank each and every one of you, my culture crew members, for being a part of the conversation. Stay tuned. Up next is RMU, Rolling Martin Unfiltered. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we'll talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Peace.